Hello, everyone. This is Jérôme Laban from the Uno platform, and I'm joined by Brian Lagunas from Infragistics. Hi, Brian.
Hey man, how's it going?
Pretty good, pretty good. So we're going to be talking all about Uno and Infragistics today. So this is a session that will be about talking about what Uno does, introductory, because it's about merging of the two crowds. So people that are using Infragistics control that may not know about Uno, and Uno folks that may not know about Infragistics, and show about all this. So if you're not new to Uno, parts of the original demo will be all about talking about the Uno platform and showing you what the Uno platform is, and let's discuss all about that. Let's start. So what is the Uno platform? The Uno platform is all about bringing XAML to the enterprise apps. XAML enterprise apps and to the web and beyond. So it's all about making sure that you can reuse all your investments that you've been pouring money into for the past few years and many years, and get that to more platforms than Windows. And it's all done by using the WinUI XAML and C#. So it's reusing everything that you know about and not having to go, let's say, if you want to go to the web, not having to use JavaScript, for instance, and reuse all your skills. It's about aiming at pixel perfect, being a single code base, so you don't do anything different per platform unless you want to do very small detailed things, but most of the time you reuse all the code. It's everywhere .NET runs, so that means so it's going to be on Windows, and Windows is just using the WinUI tooling that exists. So it's the Windows tooling that Microsoft provides by default. Nothing's done by Uno there, and it runs on HTML using WebAssembly, on iOS and Android using Xamarin. Same thing for Android, and it also runs on Linux devices using Skia and .NET 5 and 6 very soon. It's free and open source, so you can use it anytime you want. No strings attached, and the whole idea of having the ability to reuse your WinUI XAML and C# is that it reuses all the APIs that are provided by Uno and by WinUI. So that means that the third-party ecosystem is also very interesting, because if there's a component that uses WinUI and UWP, that means that it can also run on top of Uno. So that means that, for instance, the tooling from Infragistics, which happens to have a vertical that runs on UWP, had the ability to retarget that on top of Uno so that it runs on the browser on iOS and Android, and soon hopefully on Linux as well. But that's also for the Windows Community Toolkit that also it runs on UWP and WinUI now, and also runs on the Uno platform. Same thing for Skia and Skia that runs on all platforms, including the web, but also many other toolings like the MVVM toolkit and Prism library that Brian is very aware of as
Oh
a
yeah.
contributor
Oh yeah,
on this
Prism.
library. There you go. So that's the amazing ecosystem that's around Uno and WinUI. So because WinUI has that ecosystem, and it's available as well as part of the Uno platform when retargeted. So that's pretty nice. So to show you what that means when using the Uno platform, and without talking too much, at least not on top of pieces of code, this is how you can start an application when running the Uno platform. So basically, you can go and install an extension that's available as part of the Visual Studio Marketplace. So if you search for Uno, you get the Uno Platform Solution Templates, which provides you with a set of two templates that when you create a new project, provides you with a cross-platform app template. So I pinned that one for easier access, but you can also get that for that. So there are many others, and for that one, I probably should be turning that feature off. So there's a preview feature that turns off that shows up command line .NET new template. So that's a new feature that they were testing out at Uno. But the idea is that when you create this, you get so a cross-platform app and also a cross-platform library, which allows you to create reusable controls and have that shared among your projects. So when you create that project, you get the following solution, and it's split in two. And actually, Brian, that platform thing here is based on one of your comments that you said, well, that's a lot of things that are available there, and that may not be useful at all. So we changed the template.
Yeah, and actually, I want to point out in your you had a Prism template. You should just probably get rid of that and rely on the official Prism template pack, Uno Prism template.
Yep.
So you don't have to maintain that. There's actually an official Prism template.
Yes, that Prism template is pretty nice. Actually, it's installed as well through the extensions there. I think. Let me see. I think if we search for Prism template pack, there you go. So there's a Prism template pack that includes everything that you need to create a Prism enable application. It's targeting all the targets, maybe except GTK at this point, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, there were some new ones. I think the Tizen isn't there, GDK isn't there, but the others should be.
But anyways, good. So that's what's happening there. So for people listening in, there's a bit of a lag with Brian for some reason. So it happens up afterwards, but we'll probably get that sorted out in the next webinar. So that's the idea behind it. So we have when you create a solution like this, you have access to Android, iOS, macOS, GTK. So it's allowing you to run on Linux and Windows 7, as well as Tizen, WPF, UWP, so the main head for running on Windows, and then WebAssembly. So the idea here is that you're developing your application using the UWP head for starters, and then you get to the other platforms as needed when you want to test on the other heads. All those projects are mainly empty, and it's something that will change probably in the future with .NET 6, when we're going to be able to merge all those projects into one. But for now, that's the target that we have. So we basically have different projects per platform, and most of those projects are pretty much empty. So you're going to get manifests and templates and certificates and references and pretty much things and other things like that. But that's pretty much what it's going to be. Same thing for, let's say, GTK. There's going to be just a program.cs that does a few things like the main, and that's it. But the rest is going to be in the shared project here, when you have your main page.xaml and app.xaml. So when you open that page, you're going to get the content that's available for when you create a default template in Windows, and that's what it is. So when I start my application like this, it's going to run on my device locally using a standard Windows app, and once the application is built and deployed, I'm going to be using the feature that Microsoft has been working on for so many years now. That was quite hidden in some cases, but that they've made a lot more visible lately. Let me do this, and that's called the XAML hot reload. So that's something that allows you to basically navigate the application and change the application while it runs. So let's say if you want to change the content here, you change that too, and then it becomes it changes right away. So there's a few squigglies there. That's because I'm using a preview of Visual Studio, but it's something that's been adjusted in the next version of Visual Studio 16.10. So if you're trying out Uno apps, that's something that will help you there to get a more interesting experience when dealing with XAML. So another thing you can do with XAML here is that, let's say if I add a stack panel here, and that I change that to add, let's say, a slider, for instance, and I use not xname, set it a name, call it slider, and you can see right away that my slider has been added right away. So I can just move that very quickly. And now what I can do is just change that and add a binding to the value of the element that's just below, so the slider here. And what happens is when I update that right away is that it changes at the top. So when I say change my slider, then the binding is updated immediately. So that's pretty interesting, and that makes it for a good experience for developing. So let's say now that you have developed your application down to the end, we can go. Let's go on WebAssembly for now. So I select the WebAssembly head as startup, and then I just start my application. So it's going to build, and that WebAssembly. So if you don't know about WebAssembly, it's all about running something else but JavaScript on your browser and locally. It's not something that runs on the server. It's just you can put that on GitHub pages or any static website, and then it gets executed on your browser. And the tooling here is basically creating a small website with a set of files and index HTML and a few things around that, packaging all your assemblies and making a website that's going to run. So once that it's built, I can get my application running here and moving around like this. So it's basically the same application that I have here with all this available. So what I'm going to do here now is, I had to restart my browser. It's going to be easier with that version of the browser. So I'm going to restart the application. And so now what I can do is when I'm in that application here, I can just change that slider or maybe change the background here. Let's say that background black is not the right one. So it uses the theme. My machine is not in dark theme, so it shows up that way. But I can change that and let's say use a light blue, for instance. So if I change that and save, then the page updates right away. So that's the kind of things that we can do with hot reload using XAML and XAML hot reload. So that's the kind of things that we can do, and we can do things like, for instance, go to let's say Skia Sharp, for instance. So let's go to Skia. So my application here. So the screen is a bit too big, so I can run using Skia. So what I do here is basically take that application using what we call the GTK head, and we're using the frame for the window is using GTK to show the content, and the inside is using Skia to render the content. So it's the same application running here, but it's running using a different rendering system. So pretty much the same thing. So now if I take that application and let's say go to the side and change that light blue for a light red, for instance, or light cyan. If I change that, well, maybe it's a very close color. So let's go for a very, very visible blue, for instance. So you can see now that I have those two applications running at the same time, and the content changed on both. So it allows you to test on two platforms and see if there's something that needs to be adjusted per platform. So that's one of the things. Another thing you can change is just change margin, for instance, and make it larger. So it gives you a better idea of the content there. Another thing that we can do is, because it's GTK head, so the graphics toolkit that runs mainly on Linux, is that we can run that application but using the Linux subsystem. So what I'm going to do is launch what we're calling a Next server. So it's a simulator for the Linux graphical subsystem, and I'm going to change here in my startup, and I'm going to go for WSL2. And what happens there is that when I run the application, it will run using WSL, so the Windows subsystem for Linux. It's basically a Linux running on your machine, and using the Visual Studio tooling, WSL, and the Skia head for Uno, you can make that application run directly on Linux. So I'm going to start that application, and to show you that I'm not, mixing something up, I'm just going to put a breakpoint here. So probably I'm going to be too late, but let's see. Let's see if I'm too late or not. So I'm going to show you the output window. So the application started already. So let me start that again. I was too slow for the computer. So that's my application running. And to show you that I'm actually running that application inside of Linux under WSL2, you can see here that the path here is USR, share.net shared, and a few others like that. And that application is not running on my Windows machine because it would have used C, colon, backslash, and things like that. It's really running on Linux. And the debugger works. You get access to all the things that you would have access to when debugging a normal application, but it's available as part of running the application there. So now when the application shows up, it's actually running using the GTK head, but on Linux. So it's the same application that's running, but it's really running under your Linux. And of course, same thing. It runs using, it also runs the hot reload stuff. So it's running on Linux, but still updates right away when running there. So that's the base of the idea. So that's the workflow that you would get when running an application there. So it's the same thing for iOS, Android, and the other targets. But let's take a look at a few of the updates that the controls that we've added recently. And one of the controls that was required, it was that most of the enterprise customers need, is the tree view. So let's remove that red. That's a little bit aggressive. Let's put black for now because I have a dark theme. And we're going to add a control that we added recently in Uno, which is called the tree view. So if I paste the tree view here, don't mind the spaces there. It looks like there's something with the dark theme for Linux. So it's probably something we're going to have to adjust. But the idea is that when I change that for the browser, then I get my tree view showing up here. So it's something that people have been asking. You can data bind it. You can change the styles for pretty much everything running in that application. So that's one pretty cool feature. Another control that we've added recently is the info bar control. And Microsoft has been very interestingly added those kind of controls. And we pretty much ported that control from the WinUI 2.5 source code. It's a control that is already available as part of WinUI, and it's coded in C++, and we ported that control over. And it's something that you get the exact same behavior as the one that's provided by Microsoft. So that's one of the controls. So you can close that control that's available there. So that's one of the other controls. And another one that was added, it's the tab view. So the tab view control is another one that most desktop applications need. And there it is. So that's the control. So you can basically add tabs, and you probably recognize that control. It's the one that's provided by the Windows terminal. So it's the same control running there in your application. So it's here running in the web, and that's one of the interesting controls that were available as part of all this. So that's pretty much the type of controls that we get access to. And there are many more controls that are available, like the data grid, for instance, or running in many platforms. I'm probably going to be showing you one last thing if that
yeah, but everyone knows the built-in data grid isn't that great.
Yes, you're right. So we're talking about the WCT data grid, but Infragistics is providing a new one, and I'm pretty sure you're going to have a surprise for us, right? Is it what you're going to show? I'm not sure.
I don't want to spoil it.
No spoiler. Okay, so I'm not going to show anything like that. So for now. So I'm going to be just starting the application using the iOS simulator, and hopefully that should be great. So that's what the Uno platform is all about. It's all about reusing your controls, reusing your skills, and port that over to the other platforms. So you may say, Uno is very, the UWP API, WinUI API is very large. You could not possibly have implemented everything, and you'd be right. That's exactly the case. And what happens is that when we developed Uno, we started by developing applications because we needed most of the features for specific applications that are on the store already. But that means that we developed it for our needs. So our needs may not match yours, and that means that some of the features that we've implemented, or that you need may match, but it may not match for you. So that means that you may find things that are not available. So so let's let's show that
You
one.
know, some of the best OSS projects are the ones that people created for their own needs because it solved a real problem.
Exactly, exactly. And so the way we're approaching this is that we're taking the OSS approach of saying, if you come to us and hire us to develop the features that are missing and that you need, then that means that you're basically adjusting our backlog to get us do the work that you need. So that's basically the idea. It's the Red Hat model, and it's everything's open source. You can open issues. If that matches the path that we're taking, then great. If it does not, then come and say hi, and we can discuss that. So you can see here that I've pushed the info bar update here, and what you can see that at the top it doesn't work properly. So that's the kind of things that that can be adjusted by changing the hot reload. So that's that's about it for all the Uno content, and I'm pretty sure that Brian has some amazing things to show us afterwards with the Infragistics controls that they've been developing for a while.
Yeah, well, I mean, not a while. We've been working on them. I'll give the spill when it's time. But yeah, it's we are working on some cool stuff, and by the time they do go to production quality, then I'm hoping. I mean, we will own the market. You won't want to go anywhere else. You're gonna say Infragistics controls and Prism, and I got to put a plugin for Prism too.
Yeah, I see people have been answering questions quite a bit on there. Have you seen a question that may need to be answered more closely? Because I see Sasha has been answering.
I think one of the main questions that a lot of people ask is, and this is a question I had initially too, is when you look at things like Maui and Xamarin Forms, it's like, well, where does Uno fit into that story? How does Uno separate themselves, and why should I use Uno over Maui and .NET 6?
Well, that's a very good question, and most of the things around Xamarin Forms and Maui is and separating that to Uno is where are you coming from, and where do you want your app to run? And at this point, if you're doing XAML from WPF or WinUI or CivilApp for that matter, it may make more sense to go over to Uno because the XAML is very close and your code may work as is or with very limited modifications or a path that may be easier to target there. Now, there are many other things with regards to developing on Uno, on Maui and others with targets that Microsoft has been providing, especially if you're doing Xamarin Forms already. Going over to Maui may make sense, and will make sense. It's all about continuity there. So the smart folks at Microsoft have been very very interesting in their new endeavor about Maui. So that's pretty much it. It's all about where you're coming from and where you're going to. And if you're going to the web, at this point, the migration path from Maui to the web is not clear aside from going to Blazor, but Blazor is very different from XAML and C#. From C# it is, but from XAML specifically. So it may be a bit of a stretch for you if you have a great investment into XAML and C# to go over to Blazor. So that's the kind of choice that can be done when developing an application, choosing between Maui and Uno.
Yeah, I'll tell you personally, one thing that I prefer better or more in Uno from playing with it is the XAML. Because when you go into like Maui or Xamarin Forms, the XAML is so vastly different. It's annoying. Like, it's so frustrating because I'm a hardcore WPF developer, right? I lived in it for a decade. And so when I'm trying to make the switch to these new platforms and you have all these different forms of XAML, it's so annoying. And you lose some productivity, like, oh, this doesn't exist. Does that exist? Does this exist? Nope, doesn't exist here. Oh, wait, that's not data context. It's binding context. Oh, height request. Like, what is all this? I can't set height. I can't set a width. It's height requests. Like, what is this stuff? Like, it's insane. Even like the layout, there's no, what is it? No stack panel. It's stack. Like, it's frustrating. So when I come into like Uno, I feel more comfortable because the XAML is UWP XAML. And if it exists in UWP, I can almost expect it to exist in Uno.
Exactly. And so knowing that you're a WPF developer, you're probably missing a few things like multi-bindings and markup extensions. And WinUI team has been listening, and they're adding features that will definitely include Uno with regards to markup extensions specifically, that will enable multi-bindings and a few other fancy tricks that that developers have been using a WPF that are dearly missing from WinUI. So the future is bright there. That's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, and so I saw a question come through from RJax87 when he's talking, hey, is it possible to convert like a WPF app to Uno? And I'm like, yeah, it is, because I did that. I'm going to show you a sample. I had a simple sample I wrote in WPF. I copied and pasted the XAML into the Uno app, and I copied and pasted all the C# classes into my Uno app, and it just ran. Like, it was awesome.
That's very nice. That's pretty cool. That's the kind of things that we like to hear, and definitely. So I probably, there's someone that was asking about the data grid, but there's, so the WPF data grid that's available in the Windows Community Toolkit is the one that's coming from Silverlight, and that one is one that has been ported for a while back, and it's actually working pretty great. With regards to many platforms, people have been using it on Android and iOS. On WebAssembly, it's getting better and better as WebAssembly progresses, but it's quite interesting to see our clients using it. So, and I'm pretty sure that with the addition of the data grid coming from other vendors, and especially from Infragistics, it's going to help quite a bit, but we'll see about that. So there was another question about pinvoke. Is it possible to, are there limitations for pinvoke? Well, it depends on the platform. I mean, if you're trying to use Win32 on WebAssembly, you probably won't be able to do anything like that. So that's one of the things that makes it interesting. That being said, you can pinvoke in WebAssembly to something else. So for instance, if you're let's say you're compiling a C++ library and getting it built with the rest of your application, you can pinvoke into those native libraries. And the main user of that case of pinvoke is Skia Sharp. So Skia Sharp pinvokes into Skia. So that means that you can pinvoke very easily there and make it run properly. With the other platforms, if you're running on Linux, pinvoke, you can pinvoke into an SO library that you've built. If any libc library that you can want to, or any other library. And actually, one of the applications that uses pinvoke quite a bit is the Uno calculator that runs on many platforms. And that application is using a very old piece of code that comes from the WinUI, the Windows 3.1 era, 1993, and the calculation engine that does all this is something that is developed in C++, and the Uno calculator pinvokes into that piece of code, whether it's on Windows, Linux, iOS, and the browser. So it's that's the kind of pinvoke that we can do. Can we use the same installer creation process WPF while using Uno? There's no,
that's a no.
Yeah, that's a no. It's not something that you can do. There's no direct conversion from one to the other, not yet. Maybe there's going to be a conversion process that the WinUI team is gonna enable at some point, and when the features are gonna match. But at this point, no, there's not something that you can do for that. You need to use some elbow grease for that.
Yeah, and not only that, each head generates a different package depending on the head you're targeting. Android's going to create a different package. iOS is going to create its package. I mean, the deployment story is going to be different for each project head.
Exactly. So that's the kind of things that will be needed there. So okay. So if there aren't any questions, maybe we can jump into your demos.
Yeah, I got a couple. Nothing too fancy.
Yeah.
Nothing too fancy.
Yeah,
but
maybe
I could show some stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So let me switch out to a wider view. There we go. So
all right. So I have a delay on my side, so I'll wait for that to come up, and then I'll switch my scene. Okay. Now I see myself. You should see me. You should see my screen. You should see the Infragistics website. So a little bit about myself. For those of you who are joining, may have never seen me before. My name is Brian Lagunas. I'm a product owner at Infragistics, where we write UI components and controls and basically create tooling that developers need to write your applications. I'm also well known for managing and owning the Prism library. So if you know anything about the Prism library, which, I mean, if you do XAML, you probably know about it. It has over 14 million downloads by now. So it's, it's a well-known project. You use this framework for building, well-architected, testable, maintainable, extensible XAML applications. And there is a version for Uno as well. I may even show the template because, Jerome, I don't know if you've seen the new template wizard for the Uno projects in Prism. So I'll have to show that to you.
Yeah.
It's pretty slick.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, so I don't know. You might want to copy me. You might. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I mean, we're waiting on what Microsoft is going to be doing, but we're probably going to go faster with that.
Yeah, I'll show it. What the heck? But anyway, so basically, I'm here to show you how you can take your desktop applications, your line of business applications, because that's where we shine. Line of business. That's where we write apps. If you're using WPF and things like that, I mean, honestly, there aren't a lot of what do you call, consumer-facing apps written in these XAML frameworks, unless it's like you go like an airport and you have that. What's that called again? I totally forgot. My brain just switched off.
Yeah.
Kiosk
mode, exactly.
Yeah, kiosk apps are very popular for these. But I mean, line of business is where it's at, right? If you're at a company, they're writing a line of business applications, and it's kind of hard to do that when you don't have line of business controls. And I'm not talking like your text box and your combos and your pickers. No, I'm talking the hard stuff. We're talking like charts and grids and gauges and spreadsheets, Excel frameworks, things like that. And so if you go to infragistics.com/Uno platform, you can read a little bit. About these. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it. I put the link in the chat. I don't know, Jerome. I don't know if the chat will actually, if I put something in, will people on YouTube see it because you're using a Restream? I'm not sure if they'll see that or not.
It will be visible. It'll be visible.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Actually, it showed up at the top.
Yeah. So go to that. Check out the components we have. We have a number of them. The data chart, category chart, pie chart. You can see for yourself. Now, I do want to mention that these are in preview. Like, we're currently building them now. So when you use them, there will be issues. I found a number of issues myself. But let's go ahead and jump right into a couple of samples that I've written. These are just very basic samples, nothing too fancy. And this example here, all I did was I'm showing a financial chart. So we have a data chart component called the XAML data chart. I define some axes and a financial price series. I'm going to run this on UWP because that's really the only thing my machine likes is UWP. And there you go. I mean, it's like I said, nothing super fancy, but hopefully you can see how smooth this comes across. Actually, to me, it looks like it's coming across pretty smooth.
Oh, it's amazing
through Twitch. Yeah. So basically, this is something you might see in a financial chart like Yahoo Finance or something like that. I see a lot of these charts because I do a lot of day trading. So now this runs across, WASM, Android, iOS, UWP, all that great stuff. Now, I want to mention at this point, as of today, only the charts work in WASM. Okay, we're still working. We're still working on getting the grid to WASM. Okay, so it's a work in progress. Okay, but the code for this is pretty simple, right? If we hop into our code behind here, I just have this collection of data, right? It's a collection of data that I'm binding to, and I'm just setting the binding source, the item source of the series, and I set some properties, and it's done. Like, it's really not that complicated. Now the sample I really want to show is it's more fun because it's more interactive. This actually uses the data grid, right? We call it the XAML data grid, and this is the financial grid. And so I've already made some notes in here about some issues that I found using the alpha. Like, we can't set widths right now. We don't accept a string, so we have to. It has to be an object. Like for example, I can't do this default column width 100. We haven't got our type converters in yet, so for now we have to use this more expanded object syntax. And I discovered that our column definitions are broken right now, so it's only auto-generate columns right now. We're aware of this. We're gonna fix it. Don't worry. Like I said, this is alpha. This is a preview. But essentially, what I have here is I have a view model, a pretty simple view model, a couple of commands, and we're binding to a financial data. So I'm just gonna run this because this is more flashy. Like, oh, this is fun, right? We'll boot this up as soon as my computer wants to respond here. Oh, there it goes. And so what this allows me to do is this is a financial grid that has financial data in it, and I can change how many records there are. I think I only go to 10,000, for example, here. And I can update my live prices. So I can update the data on a background thread, and depending on if it was in positive or a negative, I am updating the style of these cells to show that change in price. Was it a positive change? Was it a negative change? And of course, we can stop that and change my frequency to like 50 milliseconds, and then it just like takes off like super fast, just constantly. And of course, I mean, it doesn't change your scrolling at all, right? I mean, I'm still scrolling, even though all that UI stuff is happening. And I don't know how it comes to. Oh, actually, on Twitch, it's looking kind of ugly. Like the girl. Oh, I know why. The green is black. You have a chroma key on.
Yes.
Yeah, you have a chroma key on. disable that chroma key right quick.
Let me do that. Amazing. Okay, so let me do that right away and push that. There we go.
Let's see. Oh, there it is. Ah, that's much better. Okay, we got our green back.
That explains.
Yeah, so as you can see, I mean, I was able to put 1 million records in this grid, and it scrolled like butter. Like, it's pretty amazing. And then I just have a checkbox here to group and ungroup, and you can see how fast that is. We don't have editing right now. That's still on our roadmap to get implemented. So that's going to be coming as well. But it's a pretty, substantial, high-performing, extremely feature-rich grid. When it does RTM, it's going to blow any other. Like, people kept mentioning that WPF data grid, the built-in one. That one has always sucked. I have never used that because it sucks so bad. I can't imagine if that came over to Uno, I would never touch that thing. You kidding me? I would buy one. That's how important grids are. But that's a pretty fun app there. And then, so you're probably wondering, like, well, how easy is it to use these components, right? These controls. You want to use these controls that we're providing in your Uno application. Well, I'm going to show you how easy it is. You're going to right-click your solution. You're going to say Manage NuGet Packages. You're going to browse for Infragistics.uno, and you're going to see we have our data grid, our charts, our gauges, and you're going to pick what you want. So, for example, let's go with gauges. I'm going to go ahead and install all these. This should only take a moment for this to install via NuGet.
Yeah, that's an easy one. NuGet's helping quite a bit for that.
Okay, so that's installed. Now, I do want to mention, because these are preview, you have to check this include pre-release. So if I uncheck that and I do my search, you're not going to see it, right? So make sure you check that box, or you're not going to see them, because these are pre-release. They are early preview. You're getting them as we build them. Okay. And now we can open up our main page here. Oh man, this drives me nuts. Okay. So tooling is one of the things that really gets me with Uno at this time, but they're working on that. I had to open up a C# file, change to UWP, close that, and now I can open my main page, and now I have my designer. Now it works. Okay, but the squigglies are here.
The squigglies are here. So 1610 helps a bit for that.
Okay, so what I normally do is I normally build it. I'm going to get all these build errors, but it still builds, which is weird. Like, it's going to work, even though you get these. even for the UWP project, it says, "Oh yeah, this doesn't support direct, like all this stuff."
Yes, IntelliSense, it definitely something that we're aware of, and we're definitely working on it. We know it's annoying, and once you build all your projects once, then most of those go away, which helps significantly.
Okay, yeah, let's do build only. That's a great great tip. So Graham Murray, he's G Murray 81. He's the person building these, everyone. So if you look in the chat and you see G Murray 81, he's the guy. He's the mastermind behind all these components. So he knows everything in and out. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add a namespace to those controls. And oh, here's something else to watch out for. I learned this the other day. If you were just to search for like Infragistics control gauges, the tooling put CLR namespace, right? But this is not the right syntax. It's actually using colon Infragistics gauge. What? It did it again. Infragistics.
Yeah, the editor thinks it's editing a WPF file, so that's one of the things that make the experience a bit weird. So definitely adjusting this. So you need to put using column, and that's going to help better.
Okay, there we go. I don't even think it's not Uno. Infragistics controls. There. I don't want to hit enter.
Maybe not. Escape is going to be good.
All right, and then I just hit my IG. Might have to close this. Normally when I close Visual Studio, open it back up, it'll work.
Yeah, creating the initial experience when closing, for the first time opening the designer, it gets a little bit lost, and then once you open it again, for some reason it gets better. So that's one of the things we're tracking with Microsoft.
Yeah, like I said, that so far, that's my only real complaint is the tooling is really slowing me down. Right, so Infragistics.controls. Now I think it will even now it fixed it.
Yes.
Right. So I restarted Visual Studio and then it put the correct using in there for me. And actually, just in case I'm gonna scroll that up so everyone can see. Okay, now I can say, come on.
You should
IG,
be able to use IG now.
Like XAML radial gauge, for example. I'm gonna use I'm gonna run this on UWP because it's just faster. So I'm gonna find this radial gauge. I'm gonna take advantage of that hot reload too.
It's there for that.
Yeah. I love the hot reload. So there's our gauge. I'm gonna dock that off to the side. Let's minimize that. I'm gonna close this. Now, like for example, I could say, I'm gonna set my value to like 25, and is needle dragging enabled true? Right now, I can drag it, and well, that didn't work on hot reload.
Interesting.
Okay, let me stop it and run it. That is interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. Maybe changing it to false, then true again.
Oh, actually, it stopped working, period. That's funny because this was just working in another demo I did.
So we need the preview bits. Did that.
Let's try doing it by itself. Oh, yeah. Well, we'll put that as the preview bits. That's true. What am I doing? Oh man, that was cool. Okay. Yeah, trust me, in my other one it was working. It's the demo curse, right?
Yeah, demo curse. I was mentioning last time that that from the previous stream I installed a 16:10 15 minutes before the stream, and Dan Siegel told me that I just sacrificed many of the demo gods.
Oh yeah. Yes, I learned that never install, update anything before you show something. It worked. It will not work out.
It did work.
You were lucky.
Yeah, I was very lucky. So
you must have saved a building full of children in another life. But okay, so now I want to give you a preview of something else I am working with the Visual Studio team on. Okay, so let me open. I gotta find a WPF app real quick. I gotta find a WPF app. Oh wait, I know. Let's go. Infragistics, WPF samples, data grid. Now, this is the project actually that I converted from WPF to Uno with the it's all changing and the colors moving and all that stuff. But I want to show you something that I have on my roadmap. Okay. We call these control configurators. So what happens is you see when I select this data grid, you see you have a light bulb over here, these quick actions, and I can say configure XAML data grid. Well, when I click on this, what's going to happen? Well, maybe I need a build. Come on. Of course. Okay, let's do this. Maybe
some closing again that could help.
Yeah, well, IGWPF, and because this is awesome, you have to see this. Come on, baby. Yes.
Oh.
Okay, so this is what we call a control configurator. This allows me to create bindings like financial data. I'm gonna create a binding, and then we're gonna get some information about this, and I'm gonna add some, I don't know, category, change percent by, like, I can sit here and I will be able to visually design my project, right? And then, oh, I hit, come on, Brian.
That is pretty awesome.
I hit close. I didn't hit save and apply. Actually, I should have found the gauge one because that one's more visually appealing. You know, data grids aren't very sexy at all.
Oh, it depends on who you're talking to.
Yeah. So I'm going to hit apply and close, and check this out. It generates all the code for me. Right? Like, let that sink in for a minute.
Yep, that's a lot of code. Don't want to write that.
Exactly. And so, golly, do I have a... if you guys want to bear with me, I can create one. Let's do it. Let's do one. We'll do a new project. We'll make this a WPF project. Yeah, I don't care if it's .NET framework or not. I don't care what I call it. Sure, save it. Because you'll really see the power of what's coming. Now, the problem right now is with shared projects, you can't really create these custom quick actions yet, right? It's like a limitation. But I'm going to make sure that as soon as that's available, I will port this over. So we'll say, actually, I have these locally. But it's on NuGet. We'll go infragistics.wpf. And I want the gauges, the trial. So we have all our trials on NuGet, even for WPF. So I'm going to go ahead and install. Yeah, gauges. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and install this. Should only take a second. Oh, Dan showed up. I see him in the chat.
Yeah. Yeah, pointing out the sacrifices stuff.
Yeah. All right, let's do a build real quick. Every time I add a NuGet package, I like to build just because Visual Studio always gives me trouble. So I'm going to go to my toolbox here, and I should see, if I scroll down, yeah, here's these controls are powered from the NuGet package. So I'm going to grab the radial gauge. Now, this one's fun. Let me bring this down, because this is going to be the experience in Uno when we finally get it. I'm going to configure this control. I'm going to pick something like a template, right? We have these predefined templates, these quick sets. It's going to design it, arrange it, apply and close, and it's going to generate all that code for you. And it's going to make it look exactly how you want. And then not only that, you'll be able to go two-way, like, oh yeah, well, that's kind of cool, but actually I want this first range. I want it to look different. So I'm just going to modify this to do this, whatever that means, right? That looks good. And then it's going to modify all that code. So as soon as Visual Studio can get around to adding this, this will be coming to Uno for all Infragistics, the Infragistics controls that we support. Right, so the gauges and the grid.
That's very cool.
Now, one more thing I want to show you. I don't want to take over the whole stream.
Oh, you still have time.
But, okay. But this is a Prism thing. So let's go. Well, if you're creating a Prism Uno platform project, this is going to be the experience. You're going to pick your container because Prism uses IOC. And then, wait a minute, I didn't get my...
There was no pop-up, was it?
No, I didn't get my pop-up.
Yeah. That's the cool one.
At all. That's the cool one. Yeah, that was the... What happened?
Are you using a previous version of the installed add-in, maybe?
Let me check. Because you know how it is when you develop on your machine extensions, it always messes up your installed extensions.
That's why I use a different root suffix for the demos, so they don't change.
Oh, good idea. I should probably do that. Actually, oh, here it is. No, this should be the right one. 2.3. Don't tell me I broke it.
You don't have a license. People are saying.
I don't have a license. Yeah, Uno. That's the only Uno one I have. Yeah, I think I broke it. Because what's supposed to happen... Yeah, oh, I did. I'm getting the wrong wizard. I broke it. Let me add that to my backlog. Never mind. Wah. That's a big letdown.
I think it's visible in the when going to... I think you took a screenshot of that for the add-in when running into the marketplace. I think.
Yeah, actually, I think you're right. Let's go here because I got to show everyone the experience. So it's going to be
yes.
Marketplace, Studio, Prism template pack. See, this is what I want from the Uno team. I want to select. Here it is, right here. I want to select my platforms.
Yes.
Right? Because I don't care about everything. So why are you adding all this code to my solution? I only want this, and I want that, and I'm good.
So
right?
The right answer is .NET 6. So in the meantime, it's all about making sure that we have an intermediate. So we may do something. That's why we've been looking at .NET New templates, because when you have .NET New templates, there is a set of checkboxes that happen when you do that, and that it's an intermediate. It's not as nice as yours. That's definitely sure, but it's an intermediate until we get the full experience of .NET 6, where you only get one project for all targets.
Okay, gotcha. But yeah, so yeah, see, I actually swapped out the wrong. This is the wizard you got. This is the one you should have gotten. So I need to go fix that later. But yeah, anyways, that's what I got, man. I mean, there's some exciting stuff. We're real excited about our controls. I think you even had a, I don't know if I have that one sample that Graham sent installed, where it was the the color picker.
Yes,
the color picker.
I do have that. Give me 1 second. I do have that one. It's actually quite amazing. Let me see. I had that, so let me switch back to... Yeah, there it is. Let me switch back to another scene so we can share all that. Transition. You're going to be a little bit green. So let me just add that back because it's going to be chroma key.
I'm green.
Yeah, you're green. There it is. There, you're back. Okay, so that's the VS Color Explorer sample demo. I think it's probably already built, so it's probably going to just launch very quickly. There it is. So that's a color picker demo. So if I move the mouse on top of the image, then I'm going to have the components of the pixel that's right underneath that will be showing up in the chart below. So if I'm on something very red, then the red's going to show up at the top. So that's one pretty cool demo. Very, very nice.
Yeah, and that's running WASM right there.
It's running WASM. So it's running WASM using the software rendering. So that's Kia software rendered. But the folks at Skia Sharp has provided a new package that allows to use the SK swap chain panel that uses WebGL underneath, and it's pretty darn fast. So it can go even faster than everything else. So that's pretty cool.
So you're saying that Graham is listening. He needs to change using that.
Yeah, that's I've seen the last updates that we have for Skia Sharp, and on the upcoming updates are the Linux support for Skia Sharp as well. So the idea is that you will be able to render have a Skia canvas rendered on top of the Skia backend that we're using in Uno. So that means all the controls that you guys are building in Infragistics are going to be available as well for Linux. That's one of the things that we have. So that's pretty cool. Very, very nice demos from you guys.
Yeah, and like I said, I just want to make sure everyone understands these are preview, right? These are a preview. And so you will find issues. You will find breaking things that don't work like I did. Just let us know about it, right? Even if you think we know about it, let us know about it. And actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw in a link into the chat so everyone knows where to go to actually to give us that feedback. We have forums for these products. And let me just find them. Boom. And so when you do find an issue, just let us know about it, right? Because we're building this for you guys,
Yes.
right? We're building it for everyone. So
and some of it is probably going to come back to Uno as well. So because they're using all the fancy things from UWP and XAML. So you're improving the platform as a result. So that's pretty good.
And so I see some questions coming in the chat there from XZ Productions. Is there a good video series for getting started with Prism? Yes, there actually is a really good video series. Let me bring up my links. So I have a couple of different ways you can do this. First off, you could start by, let me get that back up, by viewing my Pluralsight course about Prism, Introduction to Prism, tells you all about it. I also have my YouTube channel, which I will put in the chat as well here. Well, that pasted in weird. It should have just been YouTube/Brian Lagunas, but that works, whatever. I have a number of playlists. It's cleaner. I like that better. Okay, I have a number of playlists in there. So youtube.com/Brian Lagunas, and you'll see all my videos in there. I have some playlists for Prism specifically on how to use different features of Prism and things like that.
So on the Prism note specifically, so people have been asking about the support for Prism for Uno. So Uno is supported by Prism. It's basically a port of the WPF features that are available in Prism. So that means that things like frame navigation or navigation that you could find in forms, Xamarin Forms, for instance, are not yet available as part of Uno. And it's something that if you have a use case for that, you want to use that for advanced scenarios that are involving navigation, that's something that you may want to let us know about, either by opening an issue on Uno or on Prism directly, so that we can track the demand for that kind of features. And there are many other things that are available as part of Prism that may not yet be available, namely the WinUI 3 support. We're looking at that as well. We're waiting for stabilization on the WinUI side for that, but once that gets there, we're going to be opening up the valves for the WinUI 3 support.
Well, let me ask you this: on the WinUI 3, when WinUI 3 stabilizes and you feel comfortable with it, are you going to move Uno to the WinUI 3 frameworks and kind of get away from UWP, or are you still going to support like both? Like, what's your guidance going to be going forward?
So there are two guidances for that. The first one is for Uno itself. So for Uno itself, so inside of Uno, we're targeting both. And the trick here is that we're maintaining the whole source tree using UWP. And then inside of the build system, we have a step that basically transforms the UWP code base into a WinUI code base. And what that means is that at the end of our CI system, we have a set of packages that are targeting uno.ui. So this is the uno.ui that targets UWP. And we have a second set of packages, the same set, that targets WinUI, and those ones are named uno.winui.something. So that's where you can target both. So when Prism is going to be targeting WinUI, there's going to be two versions of Prism, one for Uno and UWP, uno.ui and UWP, another one that's going to be targeting WinUI 3 and uno.winui. So that's going to be the target. And that's pretty much the same thing for library authors. Now, what's likely to happen, and we see that in the target for the targets depending on WinUI target, and UWP is going to stay there. It's going to stay there for a while, and we can see that in the timelines that Microsoft have been posting with regards to Project Reunion and others. As far as UWP support for WinUI is still not there, and it will eventually get there. So we're guessing that UWP is going to stay there for a while. So it makes sense for library authors to provide support for both. Let's say you're making an application that has to run on HoloLens, for instance, or anything like that wants to use a library that targets both, then you're going to have to do that. But if you want to use the desktop as well, then you're going to get stuck to you can expand that to WinUI, but if you want to support both, then you have to have your library that does both. So now for the side of the developers that are developing applications, for us, WinUI and the support for WinUI and the support for UWP is pretty much the same, because the same code base on both ends. We're just renaming things up between the two sets of packages. So it's pretty much at this point, does your application that targets WinUI 3 work for you on the desktop using the new API set? If it does, then you can go for that and use Uno as well and target WinUI 3. If it does not, then you can still target Uno with the UWP API set and target and still target UWP with go to the store and things like that using that other API set. So it's a different set of strategies that you can target for that.
Okay, so you're saying that at Infragistics we might have to have a package for our UWP compliant controls, and then another Uno package for the WinUI compliant controls.
That's exactly that. Yes, you're gonna have to two sets of packages at this point, because there's a unless there's a fancy way to change target frameworks and TFMs to have one single package that also auto switches between the two. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. So and it's best to have support with using two sets of packages.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. You know what? One more thing I want to mention. Actually, I just remembered before we call this one, is if everyone is using they're going to go. I know what they're doing right now. They've installed Uno. They created the first Uno project while we're speaking, right? And now they want to use these controls. They're going to say, Brian, where's the docs? How do I learn how to use this? So because they're preview, we don't really have docs yet. However, these controls have the same API as our Blazor components. So if you go to here, I'm going to get a link to our documentation for Blazor. Those will match up almost exactly API perspective. So when you're trying to add a category chart or something like that, you can look at those code snippets and use those code snippets. It's like, oh yeah, you might have to change some names. Like you'll drop the I. No, there is no prefix on these. Actually, Graham says might be easier to check against the Xamarin docs.
Yeah, they're pretty close.
Oh, okay. Well, hold on. Let me get a link to those. That's actually a good idea.
Yep.
I don't know why I didn't think of that.
Well, that's the beauty of reusing code. I mean, it's the same thing for Uno. I mean, most of the behaviors are exactly the same. Actually, we're aiming at having everything behave the same way as WinUI. So if you can take a look at the documentation. I was talking about the WinUI tree view before. So if you go to the WinUI tree view documentation, then that's the documentation that you can use, and it's going to be behaving the same way. That's one of the interesting things about doing, and we even have pull requests that are coming up there. So that's the idea about being able to reuse code and reuse documentation that goes along with it.
Oh yeah, we reuse all our docs for these controls across even web platforms.
That's
So
pretty cool.
yeah, so I put the link for the Xamarin documentation, and those APIs will be almost exact. So use those.
That's pretty cool. So, so if people have been asking about, how to start with Uno, there's multiple things that can be done. Platform.uno, you got to get started here. That's available. If you wanna go and dive into a more complex application, we got a CH9 application that has a bit more complex tone to it. You can try it live in the browser, but you can also get it to on your different platforms. And another thing that we have is a draw that we're doing for this stream. So you can fill out the feedback, so not presentation feedback, but there isn't any for this one. But if you go to the tiny URL that's here, I think Sasha is going to be posting that on the Twitch. You can enter for winning a prize for an introduction to the Uno platform course on Udemy, that of a value of $30 US. So you'll click away.
Yeah. I would offer to give everyone the Uno controls for free, but they're already freely available on Nougat. So
maybe next time. Maybe there's something there's something available in a newer super fancy control that's available from you guys. So that's it. I think we're at the end. If there are any freer, there you go.
Yeah, they're freer.
Freer. No. So if there aren't any other questions, I think we're drawing to a close. So that will be that was fun. That was definitely fun. I think we should do that more often.
Oh yeah, for sure. Especially when we get the this whole audio video sharing thing figured out better.
We'll try to find that one out. There's probably a few things that we can change for making the video not glitch that much, but learning by experience.
That's the only way to do it.
So have a great day.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
And thanks everyone. Till next time. Bye.
Yep.